What is going on, Niner faithful? It is a beautiful day, Thursday. The 49ers had joint practice with the Las Vegas Raiders out in Las Vegas, and we kind of got some news from that today. Some really breaking news earlier today. If you haven't been following the news today, like I said, some kind of unfortunate news. A wide receiver, Ray McCloud, suffered a broken wrist. He's out 8 weeks. He's going to need wrist surgery. According to Kyle Shanahan, he's probably going to go and do that tomorrow. And we're going to talk about that because now there's going to be some talk about different wide receivers. We got to talk about return man, and maybe it could be a defensive back. I don't know. But this opens up the door for somebody else to make the roster. Or do you think the 49ers are going to go and maybe get somebody else onto this roster to compete? So we'll see. We'll talk about all that and just talk about training camp in general, the things that we heard, all the reports about what went on with the day. A crazy day because, the 49ers and the Raiders, they have a lot of history, especially with players. The Raiders usually get a lot of players from the 49ers, and over the last couple of years, the 49ers have taken a few players from the Raiders. So we'll talk about that. Garoppolo, Clelin Ferrell, a couple players that used to be on the opposite side of the fence. So we'll talk about that today. But how are we feeling? How are we doing? My man C-Mac, what's up, man? In the building. He says that Jimmy G said he was going to play in the Super Bowl. You guys might have read the articles. Mike Silver dropped an article. He talked about it today in the press conference, and different things have been said over the last couple of days now that the focus has shifted to the 49ers and the Raiders. And obviously the elephant in the room is Jimmy Garoppolo, right? He left the Niners, and there's always been some type of story behind him. He had the injury last year. He says he tried to work so hard to get ready to get to the Super Bowl, and he might have had a setback coming into this season, right, with the Raiders. Remember, he didn't pass his physical, and it changed his contract. So he says he was working so hard to make sure that if the 49ers were to get to the Super Bowl, he'd be playing. I don't think so, because at that point, Brock Purdy had surpassed him. That's a whole nother story for another day. But yeah, Jimmy says he was trying to shoot for the Super Bowl, and he wasn't healthy enough until basically if they would have had that extra week had they won the NFC Championship. So that's a crazy story. He said he felt really taken back when Kyle last year, basically, when the reporter said, hey, are you guys going to keep Jimmy? And Kyle, without hesitation, said, no, he's done here. His time is done. Good luck to him in the future. And Jimmy says he took that like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And he also said that the season where they drafted Trey Lance, because he always supported him and everything, when he was a teammate on the team and he was the starter and everything, he was Mr. Nice Guy. But he says it was awkward. And luckily for him, he had the support of the locker room. But he said it was an awkward feeling for him. So he dropped all the tea. He dropped all the sound bites that everybody wanted to hear. So he came out today and they played against the 49ers, joint practice. And from the reports I heard, obviously I wasn't there. I wish that they would have had open practice. But according to everybody, Jimmy Garoppolo came out and he had a good training camp, today. First practice. I'm sure this was like his Super Bowl. He came out and prepped for this. He didn't want to look crazy. He didn't want to get picked off because that would have been the headline. So he came out. Maybe he told Fred and the guys, just go easy on me. I don't want to throw any picks. But apparently he looked good out there, and the offense hummed, and the Niners didn't get the best of him. And I heard, up and down about Purdy. He threw 2 interceptions. He threw a pick. And Trey Lance would have had a touchdown to end it, but dropped pass by Cameron Latu. Those are the reports that we heard out of camp. But at the end of the day, for Purdy, it's just nice that he's healthy and he's getting through training camp. And Trey Lance continues to, have a solid training camp overall. And it's good to see other teams and different schemes and things like that. So let's see. A lot of injuries today. Yeah, definitely a lot of injuries today. A crazy day. Again, Ray McCloud, broken wrist. We got a couple other injuries out there. And I know there's a soft tissue injuries. They're minor right now, but these small little injuries can linger into later in the season. Hopefully they don't become anything crazy. George Kittle has an adductor strain, strained hip. Also has there's Drake Jackson suffered a hamstring injury. He missed practice today. And then Dre Greenlaw, they said that he left practice with the hamstring injury. Those hamstring injuries can creep up on you and kind of linger. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, a little bit of an injury bug early. Kyle Shanahan says, Kittle will miss a week. Obviously, starters weren't going to play anyways this week. So hopefully he can kind of get back on the mend with his injury. And same thing with Greenlaw, Drake Jackson. You don't want to have any of these guys hurt, but it is early. We still got a month away from the regular season. They should all be ready to go. But 49ers and injuries, they go together like horse and carriage. We hate to hear it. We hate to see it. But the 49ers get a lot of injuries every year. They play physical. That's the NFL. Could be, dehydrated, playing out in Vegas. It's hot. But, yeah, that's the case right now. And also you have Elijah Mitchell, who has the same injury as George Kittle right now, the adductor strain. So we'll see how they go and from here. But obviously, we all want this team to be healthy, and that's it. First and foremost, they have to be healthy. 49ers first takes. What's up, my man? He says it feels like camp wear and tear. Most likely, it's the dog days of the summer. Training camp has been brutal. The 49ers are a very physical team, and now you're going up against another team, and then wear and tear comes down on you. Again, hopefully these are just minor things. They shut them down for a little bit. When the season comes, you'll be in better condition. You get that callus, as we talked about the other day, 49ers first takes. You kind of get that callus when you come into training camp, and you're going to have a few strains here and there. Hopefully, as the season comes along, you'll be ready to go, and it's nothing serious. So, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, just flesh wounds. Again, hopefully that these don't become major injuries. They're right now just minor things, but they can sometimes lead to bigger things down the line. These little hamstring injuries can be pesky. You hate to see those things, but it looks like for now it's just a minor thing. The biggest injury, though, that we have to talk about is Ray McCloud, broken wrist. Now that to me is a big injury, huge injury, because he's our return man, and he's kind of an electric receiver when he is used in the offense. Obviously, he's not the number 2 or 3 or 4th option, maybe the 4th option, because we have so many receivers out there. So you have Debo and Ayuk, and then Juwan Jennings. Then maybe you think about Ray McCloud in the passing game, but you also have CMC and George Kittle. So by the time it gets to the point where Ray McCloud might get some action, there's so many other options on this team. And then you got Kyle Juszczyk. So the 49ers, obviously, we have a lot of weapons, but Ray is very important for that return game. But it opens it up for other receivers, right? You got Ronnie Bell, you got Danny Gray, you got Chris Conley, who have been battling, right? Now, if one of those guys can get on there for the special teams and become a return man, like we said, Danny Gray with the speed, or Ronnie Bell, if one of those two guys can really step up, they got a spot on the roster. You know what I mean? They can steal a spot now with Ray. He's going to be out for 2 months, and that's going to be the first month of the season. You got a month now, and then that first month of the season, he should be back in October. But you got a whole month in September that you're going to need some players. So maybe Danny Gray can make this roster if he continues to make those strides. Then you got Deshaun Jameson, the defensive back, right? The undrafted guy. So you might look at the secondary guys. It's not just wide receivers that are returning. Sometimes players in the secondary. So this really opens the door. The competition has been crazy during training camp, and I like this for those guys. It's going to give them an opportunity. I mean, obviously, you hate the injury. I hate to see Ray go out. He's a good return man. He's been a solid veteran for this team, but he'll be back early in the season. It's early now. It didn't spill into too much into the season, so he should be back, eventually as the season kind of progresses. But you hate to see those injuries. But again, it does give some opportunities for guys like Danny Gray and Ronnie Bell. And those two guys have been pretty damn good over the last, week or so of camp. And now they'll get a bigger opportunity come preseason. So this is going to be a huge opportunity for those guys. So let's see. Get some, let's see what some comments. 49ers first take says the Ray injury opens the door for guys like Gray Bell, among others. Yeah, exactly what we just said. Danny will be better as a return man. Ray doesn't have that breakaway speed. And, if you really think about it, this could be an opportunity that Danny Gray can excel in, because if he can use that speed, breakaway speed as a return man, this might be the break he wants. But at the same time, you got to be able to field it. You got to have that vision. He returned like 2 kicks, I believe, in college. So it's not like he has a lot of experience. It is tough. It's tough on the body. You take a lot of hits. It's not an easy spot to be out there. You got to be able to handle that ball and track the ball. And it's easy to say, oh, look, yeah, definitely, because he has that field vision or that speed, right, that he should be able to go out there and be an electric return man. He could if he's able to, track the ball and get the blocks and do those things. So we also want to see him develop as a wide receiver, in terms of becoming a better, route runner and being able to separate. So it's going to be interesting for a guy like Danny Gray. He has speed, but it's more to speed than it's instincts too when you're a return man. Devin Hester, probably the best return man I've ever seen. This guy, like, he just, when he had the ball, he knew exactly where to go. He's tracking. He's like making his route before he even got the ball, and he had so many touchdowns. And that's what you got to do. Can they prepare? It's like you're like a quarterback when you're scanning the field and everything. Once you get that play, as a return man, you're scanning the field before the ball even touches your hand. So we'll see. And Ronnie Bell, this is a guy, don't sleep on him. I know he doesn't have breakaway speed. He's got great hands. He's got great instincts, good IQ. I really think that Ronnie Bell might be able to snag the spot. Or even if he doesn't win the return spot, it opens the door for him to be a fifth or sixth receiver on this team to make it, because he really has shown out in training camp. He had really good mini camp from all the reports from all the media before training camp started. And Ronnie Bell, if he continues that that good showcase that he's had, especially in preseason games, there's you can't cut him. And if he gives us a special teams ability, it's gonna be hard to cut him. So they did change the return rules a little bit, but I still think it's important to have a return man. Obviously, the rules are going to be different, but if you're getting a short field, a longer field, and you still have a chance to return it, sometimes that, in my opinion, I think sometimes having a few yards extra here and there might make the difference on a play. Field position matters, but it also, I think, ultimately, I think the biggest reason why it matters to me is we have such a logjam of receivers. There's some really talented players that may not make this roster, but now this extra roster spot is going to open up for one of these guys. I want to see Ronnie Bell make this 53-man roster. I want to see it. I don't want to see him get cut and then they try to hold on to hope that he goes onto the practice squad. Because a guy like Ronnie Bell and even Danny Gray, if one of those two guys were to get cut, I think they won't survive the waivers. Somebody's going to snag him. The Seahawks would snag him. The Rams would snag one of those guys. So again, it sucks for Ray. He'll be back, but for now, in the short term, I think it opens up the window for one of those guys. But we'll see. Randy says, give Ambry a shot at returning. You never know. I think, again, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to get a chance to take this role. And they may not have been able to make the team before, but if they're a good return man, if they're a good special teamer, they got a shot to make the roster. So I think that's why this is good for those younger players. It sucks to see an injury, but these younger players, now they got another reason to keep pushing. So yeah, you do, Randy, you do take a beating on returns. I would not want to be a return man. I would probably get crushed, decapitated. Something bad would happen to me. My small frame would be back there returning. I'd be fair catching every time. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd be fair catch, even if there's nobody by me. I'm fair catching, because you get beat as a return man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's get to some questions. See if you guys have any other questions. But that's pretty much the news of the day. Obviously, like we said, 49ers opened up against the Raiders. You could take those reports with a grain of salt. I'm not gonna sit here and say those reports are the end all be all. When people see that a quarterback's struggling or one guy's better than the other, that's it. He's the man. He's a starter, or he's terrible. Take those reports with a grain of salt. So we'll see how. Again, tomorrow's the second training camp, joint practice with the Raiders, and then Saturday's the walkthrough. Sunday's the first preseason game of the season. I'm excited to see a lot of these younger players that we already talked about, and a lot more, get that action. Randy says, are we trading any running backs away? I don't think so. I think we need as much depth as we can get, unless they feel like Elijah Mitchell's expendable. He does have the injury history. I think if they were to trade somebody, maybe Elijah Mitchell, but I don't know if his value is too high now because he's had a history of injuries. But I think out of all the running backs, he probably has, CMC, you're not going to get rid of him. He's the centerpiece. But out of the other running backs, I feel like Elijah Mitchell's a guy that you probably could get a decent return on, because he's good when he's healthy. That's just the problem, is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. You got Jordan Mason, who's really looked good, and TDP. Those two guys have really been strong in camp, and they have undrafted players that Kyle Shanahan just picks out of thin air, and they're always good. They're always good undrafted. So, as far as running backs, I'm never too worried, because Kyle Shanahan he's a running scheme. He knows how to get these guys and get the most out of them. So, am I streaming the preseason games? No, I don't think we're allowed to stream. It's too many copyright rules. I've tried it in the past. Unfortunately, streaming days are over. Kalia Davis, do I think he'll make the team? It's a good question. He's been kind of still, early on missing some time. I think he had a hamstring issue, but he's recovering from that ACL. Last year was like a redshirt year. I think they want him to be on this team. I think they feel like he has a lot of potential, but that D line is very, very deep. He's got to really make his name known in the preseason. He's got to make a difference in the preseason. But I think they can probably put a guy like Kalia Davis on the practice squad, and I don't think anybody will take him yet, just because they got so many defensive linemen, and the Niners usually keep 10 linemen. And I feel like, you got Armstead, you got Hargrave, you got Farrell, you got who else you got? You got Hyder, you got Bosa. Who else do we say? Did I say Kinlaw? Off the top of your head, you got Drake Jackson. That's 7 guys. So then it's going to become a really battle. Alex Barrett, maybe. It's going to be a battle. Austin Bryant, that's another guy that has been pretty good in camp. So it's going to be close. I don't know if Kalia Davis makes the final roster unless he really impresses in preseason. But again, he's still coming into his own. Last year he didn't play because of the ACL, and he's still trying to learn the system and the scheme. He did miss some time in training camp, because he did have some hamstring issues related probably to the ACL recovery. So I like the kid. I think he has good talent, good potential, but he's still kind of a work in progress. I think ultimately he ends up on the practice squad, and then as he gets healthier and he develops, he'll be a part of this rotation sometime down the line. So we'll see. Any chance we see Jair Brown, Gibson, Huff at the same time? Yeah, I think they mentioned that overall that they do plan on having 3 safeties down the line. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I think Steve Wilkes is a very aggressive coach. He's a DB guy. He's been a DB coach. And I think he mentioned that a while back that, yeah, there's going to be a possibility of having 3, and especially Jair Brown. That's a guy that they do want to get in the game. They want to continue to develop him. He's going to learn a lot from Gibson. He'll be in on special teams. I think he'll be on the blitz packages. I could see all 3 of them being in at some time. I mean, Huff, that man could play like hybrid type linebacker, safety. The guy's amazing. Stack him in the box. Gibson's great in coverage. And they got Jair, who could kind of be a do-it-all type guy. He's very versatile, so that's why they liked him. Like Jimmy Ward was that versatile safety where he could go in and kind of do everything. And I feel like Jair Brown's going to fit that mold as he grows and develops. So Drunk says, any starters playing this week? I doubt it. I don't think there are any players from all the reports I've read. If any starter gets in there this week, I'd be very, very surprised if anybody starter makes any plays on the first preseason game. It's usually the case. JR3 says, any news on the Posta deal? Nothing new. We just waiting here, singing Kumbaya for that man to get paid. That's really it. It's wait and see when Nick Bosa will get paid. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I know they've been trying. I know they're working on it. Kyle the other day said nothing's changed. He hasn't asked Kyle, or he hasn't asked John Lynch. John Lynch said they're working hard with the agent. They haven't spoke to Bosa. I mean, at this point, it's the agent and 49ers front office business talking and trying to find the right medium, the right price. It's really it. Is this you're trying to find the right price? That's what it's boiling down to right now. Mr. Breezy says, "Did you hear the news about Philip Rivers or Jimmy G?" Yeah, Philip Rivers report was a couple months ago, but it resurfaced today, and he did say that, yeah, the 49ers were trying to ask him to come on the team, come out of retirement, basically to be that last hope in case, they make it to the Super Bowl. He said that they looked for him. This was an older report. It confirmed it today. Then they didn't know they were going to get what they got out of Brock Purdy last year. So I guess that worked out for him until the NFC Championship game. Another report a couple months ago, I don't know if it was confirmed or not, but Ben Roethlisberger was another guy they looked, into last year. I guess at that point, when you go through all your quarterbacks, you're going to hit desperation. You're going to call guys out of retirement. I'm surprised they didn't call Andrew Luck. They were calling people left and right. I mean, if you never know, they might have got so desperate they could have called me. I didn't get any phone calls from them, but you never know how desperate they got. Luckily for them, Brock Purdy came out and shocked the world and became, this magic story, and we all hope that he could be that guy again, because that was a magical ride with Brock Purdy last year. But yeah, they called several people, and Jimmy was hoping to be there for the Super Bowl. That's why they never put him on the injured reserve list, right? Because they thought he'd be healthy enough if they needed an emergency plan, and Jimmy was that emergency plan. but unfortunately, he just wasn't healthy at that point. So, is Brown going to play a full game? I don't think most people will play a full game on the preseason. You're going to have your rookies get in there, but you got a lot of depth players. You got backups. They'll play a good amount, a good chunk of snaps, but they got a 53-man roster to get. You don't have your starters out there, so all the rest of those players are going to have to fill in and play and make sure they get their reps and their snaps. And depending on the position, the 49ers front office and the coaches, they got to make some decisions. So they're going to go out there and give certain players probably more snaps than others. And depending on how the game plays, if they're on defense a lot, if they're on offense a lot, there's going to be players that play a long time. There's going to be players that get a small little, showcase here and there. And as these players get better, maybe they'll get a little bit more chances to show that they really belong on this team. So we'll see. I don't think anybody's going to play a full game, though. That's just preseason. Randy says grocery baggers will play the preseason games. Hey, you got to fill those rosters. You got to fill those spots. You can't get you got to make sure you don't get everybody hurt. Guys got to get conditioned. But yeah, the backups, third stringers, players that probably won't even sniff the team are going to be playing. So we'll see some good rookies. We'll see some second stringers in there. We'll see Trey Lance. We'll see Sam Darnold in there. Danny Gray. We'll see some of the good players. Rotation players will be in there. What happened with Trey Lance? Nothing that I know of. He had training camp today. He went out there. I heard that he threw a touchdown pass that was dropped to Cameron Latu, but he went out there and had a decent day. Nothing too crazy, but I heard that quarterbacks, had an average day today. That's kind of the reports that I was looking at. Raiders though. Their reporters were talking crazy. They were hyping Jimmy today. They were saying, "Oh, Jimmy went wild. He cooked the touchdown to who was it? Jacoby Myers, I think that's the guy. They said that he had a nice touchdown to him. Those are the big reports. I heard there was Juwan Jennings got chippy. He threw a block, and the Raiders DB didn't like that and took offense to it. Not a fight, didn't break out, but it was close. He kind of tried to push back. So Juwan Jennings had that dog in him. He came at him. And I heard Clelin Ferrell had a good day against his former team. I mean, this is revenge game for Clelin Ferrell. Joe Sepp says you heard he fumbled the snap and got moved to third string. So, yeah, I heard that too. He had a bad little start. And then Sam came in, and then I heard Sam stunk it up too. But, I mean, that's preseason. That's training camp. So then they put Trey back in there. So I don't know if the snap was fumbled on him or if the fumble snap was because of the lineman. Again, it's hard to say because I wasn't there. You can go off the reports and read those things, but it's hard to really judge when you're not there. So I tried not to make too much analysis because when I was at training camp, I could give you like a more visual and a good answer. But I don't know if Trey looked good or not. We weren't there. You go with what the media says, but they've been kind of up and down. They've kind of had their agenda. Numbers have been altered or numbers have not been always accurate. But again, you're tracking stats. The coaches don't care about stats. But at the end of the day, yeah, there was a point where they did take out Trey today from the reports, and Sam came in, and then he stunk, and they put Trey back in. So that's why I said I feel like the quarterbacks had an average day, nothing crazy. But it sounded like, from what I read, that Trey kind of got better as the day went on, and he almost ended camp with the touchdown today, almost ended practice with touchdown today. But Cameron Latu, who's not had the greatest camp, had feet for hands, is what Grant Cohn said today. He said he had feet for hands. I laughed at that. It's pretty funny. What's up, 49er Jeff? My man, what's good? Randy Daytona says, is Trey the number one quarterback in camp? Has he passed Brock? No, because Brock Purdy's played with the first team every day. You can't pass a guy if you haven't played with the number one unit out there. And no hate to Trey. I think he's had a really good camp. I've seen a big difference in his game from last year to this year, and even from the rookie season through to this year. I've seen all the last 3 years of training camp, and Trey has shown a big difference. He's matured. He's more confident. But is he past Brock Purdy in quarterback one? No, I don't think so, because he hasn't played with quarterback one, unit. But I'll say this, Brock has made mistakes, but that's to be expected for a guy coming in from surgery and stuff. I feel like Brock, a lot of people are saying, oh my God, he throws picks. He's not doing good. He's dinking and ducking. The fact that he's healthy and coming into camp and getting through these practices without any setbacks, that's a big dub for him. Like, yeah, he may not be perfect, but on the other hat is Trey Lance has looked good, but he's played with second teamers, the guys that may not be on this team, third stringers. How would he do if he had that first team, offense and that first team offensive line? So he has looked really good, but we can't give, all that hype on him because we haven't seen him play with the first team and against the first team defense. So he's carving up the backups, which backups are pretty damn good for the 49ers. But at the same time, we haven't seen him play against the first team. So if you're going to compare it that way, yeah, Brock Purdy's ahead of Trey Lance just for the mere fact that he's taken every single snap with the first team offense against the first team defense. So, yeah, it is a little crazy you can't get first team reps. But as Kyle, man, at the end of the day, he just wants to make sure these guys know the system and can execute the offense. But it does suck that he hasn't got first team reps with anybody because if he does have to play, you're going to hope that he can come out there and have the chemistry with everybody. I mean, although he's been on this team for 3 years, but it's not like he's thrown a lot to CMC. It's not like he's thrown a lot to Debo and Ayuk and all these guys and Kittle because he had gotten injured. He has had limited time. So it's a crazy thing. But again, you never expected Brock Purdy to come out and have that magic. So quarterback has always been the dilemma of this team, and that's probably the reason why we haven't won a Super Bowl. We're just always trying to figure that position out. So Joe says, do I think that Trey needs to be able to get into a rhythm to alleviate the fumble snaps and small problems? Yeah, I think he's a rhythm quarterback. Like once he gets going, that's a very good question because one thing I did notice during training camp, especially this year, once he starts getting a rhythm, like he starts cooking, right? Once he starts getting kind of going, he's good. You could see his he'll connect, he'll hit a few passes in a row. It's like nice. But the thing about training camp, it's so scattered out because okay, you get like 4 reps, okay, you're out. 4 reps, you're out. Then you got to wait 20 minutes. So it's sometimes for a guy like Trey, who I feel is a rhythm quarterback, it's hard to establish a rhythm when you're always going in and out of rhythm. So, but that's practice. You got to be able to stay hot. You got to be able to stay, warm out there and be able to hit those targets after a break. Because if you're playing a game, what if your defense is out there on the field for 20 minutes or you're having a battle and then you haven't been able to throw for a while? It's similar to that situation. You can't just sit there and say, oh, my God, he's not getting reps. He's has to wait for so many, minutes, so-and-so. But in a game, sometimes these quarterbacks may be sitting on the bench for 20 minutes out in the cold weather or something. So, that's part of the game. That's preparation. But it does seem like once he gets on a rhythm, he does a little better. And those minor things I feel could be ironed out. Because, again, he's just a guy that just needs more time, more development, more reps. And the more he gets, he's going to get better. And that's just because he goes off that rhythm, I feel. I think that's in my opinion. But he had a really good training camp this year so far. D'Amico Ryan got his first preseason dub. Yes, sir. Shout out to D'Amico. Houston, man. Aziz Al-Shahir, that guy's going to be a star. Jordan Elliott just tweeted out, D'Amico Ryans is undefeated as an NFL coach. That's funny. Randy says, feel like we need to see him play with the ones. I agree. But I feel like to give him a fair assessment, you want to see him play with the ones. But hopefully Brock doesn't get hurt and he can be the guy and he can cook and, there's no issues. But you never know, man. You never know with this team. Injuries can happen any time of the day. Today, right? We talked about it, Ray McCloud. We didn't expect that. We didn't expect Ray McCloud to get an injury. You never know, man. I don't wish any injuries on anybody, but you just never know. And Kyle Shanahan's a hell of a physical-minded coach. He's tough. He plays these guys hard. They practice tough. They practice hard. And, you play hard, you're going to have some injuries here and there. And it's football. Injuries happen to every team. I feel like right now we're so far pretty good in terms of the injury bug. I know we have some minor injuries to guys like Kittle, Greenlaw, and Drake Jackson and the Ray McCloud injury. But, I feel like those injuries we have right now, they're okay, and they're not going to be able to affect us come week 1 because we got a whole month, really, until the first game of the season. And Ray, it's unfortunate for him, but we got some good players that can step up. But, if it had been a CMC or a Fred Warner or a Debo or an Ayuk injury, like if it's one of those, like, serious type injury, then we're screwed. Then we're fucked. You know what I mean? They're screwed. Like, look at the Bengals. They held their breath. They were holding their breath when Joe Burrow went down last week, in training camp. So that right there, if Joe Burrow would have went out for the Bengals, their season's cooked, So luckily for now, we're going to knock on wood. We're going to pray that our injuries don't get too serious. And we're okay. Joseph, do I think that we'll see Brock and Trey play in the preseason? We're definitely going to see Trey. I know we're going to get some Trey action in preseason. He's QB2 right now. He needs to get out there and get his, beak wet. And also because you can't play one quarterback all, every game. They got to get their reps and get their, conditioning in. I think we'll see some Sam Darnold. We're definitely going to see a lot of Brandon Allen to finish out games. Brock Purdy, maybe in the dress rehearsal game, we might get to see a drive depending on how he's feeling and how Kyle wants to handle that situation. I do think it's important to see Brock out there and get some live game action before week one. That would probably be the dress rehearsal game, but maybe just a drive. But we're definitely going to see Trey Lance in preseason. Brock, though, the chances are a lot lower to see him in the preseason than we're going to see Trey Lance, obviously. But yeah, maybe like one drive again in the dress rehearsal, but we'll see because they still have him on. He's still ramping up. By week one, he should be ready and cleared, is what the reports were early on when this whole situation, when the whole surgery happened, is he would be cleared fully go to be able to go week one. But I mean, he's ramped up. He's been doing really good. He's been practicing, days without too many breaks in between, and he's been throwing a lot. And he's getting through this training camp without any setbacks. So far, so good. But it really depends on what the doctors are saying and how far along he's progressed and how far along he is to that end goal of being ready for week one. My man, hey, Peter Parker says, Trey, better play. I'm driving from OC to Levi's next Saturday. Damn it. Yeah, he better play. He should. He'll play. He'll play. Trey will play. Trey will play. Just for you, Peter Parker, because you're his biggest fan. We got to get him out there. We got to get Trey out there. Broncos, cook him up. Hopefully he plays the Chargers game. I'm probably going to be going to that one. Or we'll see a lot of Sammy D. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, baby. Heard he was 1 for 3 today. It's not good. Let's see. We'll take another 15 minutes here. A couple more questions. We'll open it up. Hope everybody's having a good day, man. Ray McCloud, definitely not having a good day, but let's hope he gets healthy. Trey was your first draft crush, says Joe. I hope all goes well. I like Trey. I mean, I was happy we got him. I definitely was on the Justin Fields hype train. If you guys remember, I was Justin Fields I was just a Fields hype beast. I like Trey too. I remember posting about him, and I liked what I saw. I liked him. I just wanted one of those two guys over Mac Jones, but given the chance and the choice at the time, I was leaning towards Fields over Trey Lance. But I was happy when we did draft him. I was very excited, especially because we didn't get Mac Jones. But I mean, I was really happy with the film and then the body of work and the potential that Trey had. Coming into the Niners. Still excited about the guy. I think he has a really good head on his shoulders. He has a lot of potential. He has the frame. He has the build. He has the skill set, but he has to be able to put it all together and lead this team. So, Peter Park says, when Darnold comes in, I'm going to get food. He might miss a touchdown, baby. Darnold was pretty consistent in training camp. We'll see. Julius Callaway, what do you think the D-line rotation will be? If we're talking about starters, obviously Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Arik Armstead, and I think Drake Jackson will play that opposite end of Nick. But, I mean, that's still to be determined because Clelin Ferrell has turned it on as of late. I heard he had a good camp today. And a guy like Austin Bryant, he might sneak in there and make his name known. But ultimately, if Drake Jackson can be healthy and stack some good preseason games together, I think that Drake Jackson and Nick Bosa will be your opposite ends. But I mean, right now, if season starts today, I think it's Clelin Ferrell, just for the fact that he's healthy and he's had a couple really good days last week and a half. So Drake, unfortunately, he's been dealing with the hamstring issue. We can't be dealing with that, and then after that, you get your guess is as good as mine because they got a lot of players, they got a lot of guys on that line. Obviously, Kinlaw will be in there on that rotation. You got Kerry Hyder, you got Austin Bryant, like I mentioned, Alex Barrett. So all those guys will be able to be mixed in there. We talked about him earlier, Kalia Davis. I don't know if he makes the final roster, but he's definitely in the mix there. They have a lot of D linemen. This team's scary. I can't wait to see Javon Hargrave. Whew. Yeah, no full contact till Sunday. You agree? Correct, because the first game is Sunday. You can't hit people. You can't do full contact in practices. It's just a scrimmage. Am I available next week? I'm not too sure. I'm a pretty busy guy, so I'll have to look at the schedule. So I work every night, every day. I do have 1 or 2 shows scheduled, so usually only schedule the shows I have when I have extra time. So we'll see. S Flood says, "What's good? Late. What did you miss? You didn't miss much. We're just recapping the day. What's up, my man? Hopefully, everything's good. But yeah, we talked about quarterbacks today. We talked about Ray McCloud broke the wrist. Who's going to replace him? There's a lot of options there, and just training camp news and the stuff that everybody wants to talk about. Nick Bosa, and he still has not signed with the team for his extension. A couple other things that happened today was Kyle Shanahan basically apologized to Max Crosby for being he said it out. He says, "I apologize for being a dick" during the interviews to Max Crosby, and he says, they when they were scouting him, they kind of didn't treat him too well. They said some things. They didn't think he was going to be a star. He threw Chris Kosherk under the bus. He says, "Yeah, Chris said he's not going to be a good player." Now they look back and they're like, "Man, were we wrong on that?" And this guy's a star in the league, one of the best players. He's so cool. But he says during their draft evaluations, they were totally rude to him, and he didn't like the guy, and they blew that one up. Can you imagine if they would have got Max Crosby and Nick Bosa on this team? God, Max Crosby's great. Max is good. He's a good player. I know a lot of people hate him and they go, "Oh, Bosa's better." Yeah, no doubt. Nick Bosa's the man, best defensive end in the league. But Max Crosby's nice, man. That guy's crazy. And today he gave Trent his flowers. He said that he was talking with him, chopped it up, and they got a lot of good information from him, which was cool to hear because Trent's the best of the best, and if you want to be the best, you learn from the best. So it's cool to see that, and he gave some good praise to Trent Williams. So I mean, I hate the Raiders, but I got respect for Max Crosby. That dude's a hell of a story. He's a hell of a player. That guy was like a drug addict. Nobody thought he was going to make it into his league, and he's one of the best edge rushers in the league, man. So shout out to Max Crosby, man. Good player. He does boss Mahomes around. He kills that guy. He's great. I'd love him on my team. Peter Park says, "No Bosa news. What about the Boombox guy?" No news. I haven't got any information on the Boombox guy. I don't know. We'll see. We hope that there's a Boombox guy this year. But there was an interview a week ago on NFL Network. I don't know if you guys saw it. I think I posted it on IG where the interview where Debo says, our offense is insane or crazy. It's so insane, all the firepower. He did mention at the end. He goes, "We got something cooking up for you guys this year. We can't tell you, but we do have something planned," because they asked him in that interview. They say, "You guys are so innovative, coming out to the music and the boombox and stuff." He goes, "What's next for you guys?" He goes, "Yo, we like to stay ahead of the times," because they asked him. They said, "Everything you guys do, people copy you. You guys are like trendsetters." And he did say, he goes, "Yeah, you know what? I can't tell you. We got something cooking." So Debo knows. Maybe I gotta talk to Debo. Debo knows what they're doing. I don't. I mean, I'll be the boombox guy. I live so close to the stadium. Just chop me up, give me my media pass. I'll go back there with the boombox. I'd love it. I'd love it. Flood says, "Think the injury to Kittle just giving him some time to get ready for the season." Yeah, let's hope so. It is a little, strained muscle. Those little things can lead to other things, but with Kittle, you definitely want to go easy on him, and that's what they've done with him all training camp. Like they've been really, light on him. He hasn't had too many big practices, so the strain definitely is something that maybe could have happened during ramping up, activity, and then now he got a little muscle strain. But let's definitely hope that it's something that doesn't linger and keep him out too long. Same with Greenlaw and Drake Jackson because they have hamstring injuries. You hate to see those type of injuries. Those things can linger, but for now, hopefully they're just minor. And again, they have a month until the regular season, so we'll see. Yeah, I'm not too happy about the injury report, although it's early. It's very early. Let's see. Any more questions? Take 2 more questions here, and then we'll call it a night. Appreciate you guys tuning in a little later. Obviously, you've been busy, but, good to talk to you guys. Good to get some news out there and then get some comments and feedback from you guys. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you comment. Make sure you subscribe. And also on Instagram, we're getting close to 250K. It's crazy. I was looking at it today. I was like, dude, I'm close to 250,000 followers. So shout out to the faithful. You guys are the best. Appreciate all the support you guys always give me through all the social media accounts. So make sure you keep hitting that like button. Oh, Flood, this is a good question. What's up with the drops from the young tight end? Quick way to get into Kyle's doghouse. Yeah, so let's talk about Cameron Latu. This guy has not had the best training camp. I mean, the last few days he looked a little better. He did have some catches here and there, but man, he has had the cases of the drops, and that's his biggest theme so far. It's this guy was was he a fourth round tight end? They picked him, and there's a lot of talent on the board, and a lot of people criticize this pick. And Kyle loves tight ends, and they need to, put some pressure on guys like Dwelly and Warner. Braden Willis has definitely been the best tight end, not named George Kittle on this roster, and it's something that we need to have is depth. Because we love George Kittle, but he has had an injury bug here and there throughout the last couple of years, and he's getting older. Those muscles, the way he plays so physical can lead to hamstring pulls and things like that. The hip strain that he has today. So you gotta hope that these guys can come through. Kyle's probably gonna keep 4 tight ends on the roster, but man, oh man, let me tell you, Latu is just dropping passes left and right. And today, no different from all the reports. He dropped a big time pass that would have been a touchdown from Trey Lance. So I mean, this guy's got stone on his hands. I honestly, I said this the other day, and I hate to talk about players because I feel like he has talent, he has potential. He's a solid route runner. He's a big frame, and he's a big guy. He looks like he could be a good tight end, but I mean, I think he just has cocoa butter, soap, grease, and bricks on his hands when he's out there on the field. He can't catch, man. Yeah, Peter says drafted number 2 early, and dude can't catch a cold. He literally can't catch a cold. You could probably have flu, COVID, whatever you got, every type of virus go in his face, cough in his face, spit in his mouth, and he couldn't catch that virus that you have. That's how bad he's been. So it's unfortunate. Let's hopefully he turns it around. Let's hope he turns it around and becomes a legend. You know, but right now you're right. You spit in his mouth with COVID and he won't catch it. That's how resistant he is. He's got the vaccine that we all need, man. And he's got the vaccine that we all want. No hate though. Braden Willis has been the man. Wish we got Kincaid. I wish we got a lot of players, but we'll see. I'm gonna trust the process. It's early, his first couple weeks on. It's early. It's still early. It's not looking good right now. I just hope Kittle's healthy. Prayers up to Ray Ray. Yes, sir, Peter. Mario Gonzalez. How did Jimmy look against our defense? Well, obviously, it wasn't open to the public, so we're going off all the reports. But from everything I read today and everything I heard today, Jimmy looked good against the Niners defense, the number 1 defense. I mean, call a spade a spade. He looked good today. That's what the reports are. And let's pull him out. Let me pull out some Raider tweets. I had to follow some of their reporters, unfortunately, to get some information from them today. So let's see. Let's see what he got. Let's see. Let me pull out some Jimmy stuff. He was on the 2-minute drill. Okay, so Jimmy was 4 of 6 on the 2-minute drill with the touchdown pass to Hooper. Yeah, he looked good from everything I'm reading. He had a great he had a quick release that beat his old teammates on back-to-back plays. A sideline pass to Devontae Adams. Jeez, man, Jimmy was cooking. He was cooking. Will Jimmy play Sunday? I don't know. I don't know if the Raiders are going to play their starters. I think we'd love to see it. We'd love to see it. Get a little interception, but we'll see. But no, he definitely had a good practice from all the reports out there. He cooked it up today from what we heard. I hope they release some highlights here on the Raiders and the Niners social media. But obviously, if you want to see Jimmy, go to the Raiders. It's kind of weird. I saw him on all their social media posts. It looks so weird in the silver and black. But yeah, he cooked today from everything I heard. So good for him, man. It's good for Jimmy. New scenery, new place for him. He's a stand-up guy. The team loved him. He's never did anything wrong. He's always been a stand-up guy. So I hope he has success. I mean, whenever anytime a player leaves, I always hope they have success. So good for him, man. He had a good day today. Let's see what happens tomorrow. But it's going to be a whole heck of a crazy season for the Raiders. We'll see. But so far so good. And the Niners again, one more joint practice with the Raiders tomorrow, and then Saturday is their walkthrough. Sunday, the first preseason game of the season. We'll be live again tomorrow, talking about joint practice. And Saturday, I'll probably do preview show, and then we got preseason game 1 in a couple days, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you soon. I'm gonna eat some dinner, and I'll probably come back on Instagram a little later. We'll talk to y'all. Have a good night. Appreciate you, and yeah, have a good rest of your week. If you don't hop on until later in the week, appreciate you. Raiders will win games with him. Absolutely, I think the Raiders will definitely win games. He's a guy that knows how to win games. So hope again. I wish him nothing but success and the best, and I want to see the Raiders in the Super Bowl. That'd be crazy. Could you imagine what a story that would be? Let's hope that the Niners are back in Vegas in February, maybe against the Raiders. We'll see. I'll be there. How was Moody today? I heard he nailed 2 long field goals. Let me see. I think Mayoko posted it. Yeah, he dropped like 2 field goals beyond 48 yards. So he nailed them. He was 2 for 2 on those. Moody's been lights out in training camp so far. So from everything I've read, everything I've seen, this guy's been the man. I like the kicker competition. I think it really helped both kickers because they've been like going bar for bar, eye for eye. There was a day like Zane Gonzalez, he was like perfect. I was like, oh, that was nice, and he had some nice kicks. And the next day, Moody comes out, and you could tell he was like looking at Zane like, I'm not gonna miss today. Kind of fueled him. It's nice. So maybe Zane Gonzalez worked his way, worked some trade value for him, and we'll trade him later. So, I mean, we're not. There's no way we keep 2 kickers, but Jake Moody has had a hell of a training camp, and today was no different from everything I read. But see how tomorrow goes. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your day. I love you. Bang, bang. Niner gang.